Okay, so what if I told you that getting out of debt is actually terrible advice? We're about to dive into a financial philosophy that basically flips conventional wisdom completely on its head. It's a pretty wild ride, and it's going to challenge just about everything you think you know about wealth. So, yeah, let's get right into it. And boom, there it is. A statement so counterintuitive, it feels wrong, right? But this isn't just about shock value, I promise. This one provocative sentence, it's the key. It's the key to unlocking a totally different financial universe.
So, to even begin to unpack that bombshell of an idea, we've got to rewind a little. We have to ask a really, really fundamental question. What even is money? Because according to the source material we're looking at today, the answer is, well, it's absolutely not what you think it is.
Just three little words that change everything. The money is debt. Now, get this. This isn't some clever metaphor. It's being presented as the literal, mechanical truth of how the financial system actually works. And if that's true, well, it forces you to rethink pretty much every single financial decision you've ever made. Okay, so here's how this idea apparently works in practice. In this view, money is literally created as debt. It circulates around the economy, as we all buy and sell things, and then, and this is the kicker, it's effectively destroyed when it's paid back to the government in taxes. It's like this closed loop, and you really have to grasp this cycle to get the rest of the philosophy. So this really highlights the fundamental clash of ideas, right? On one side, you have the view we're all taught in school. Money is an asset. It's a store of value. You should accumulate it. But on the other side, you've got this source's view. Money is just an instrument of debt. It's a liability in the system. And if you think about it, if you spend your whole life trying to accumulate a liability, you're kind of losing the game from the start. Okay, so let's just say you accept this premise for a second. Let's say money is debt. That leads to a really practical and kind of paradoxical question, doesn't it? How are you supposed to act? If money itself is the problem, then what in the world is the solution? And here's where the theory actually becomes practice. The strategy, according to the source, is stated super simply. I use debt as money. See? You're not just passively accepting that money is debt, you're actively going out and using the instrument of debt itself as your main financial tool. So this is basically the three-step process laid out for us. Step one, you acquire debt. But, and this is key, not for stuff like TVs and vacations, but to buy actual assets like real estate or businesses. Then step two, you use that debt as your money, as your working capital. And this all leads to step three, which is a big nod to Rich Dad Poor Dad. The whole point is to stop working for money. Instead, you're using debt to get assets that work for you. Once you start to adopt this kind of mindset, the whole traditional financial system starts to look, well, really different. It stops being a set of rules you're supposed to follow and starts looking more like a game with all these hidden traps. And according to this source, some of the biggest traps are the very things we're usually told are the keys to success. And yeah, it doesn't really get much more blunt than that, does it? The stock market, the thing that's the cornerstone of investing for millions of people, is for losers. I know, it's a shocking thing to say, but there is a specific and frankly kind of unsettling logic that goes along with it. See, from this point of view, the problem isn't risk, it's manipulation. The objection to the stock market isn't about whether you can pick good companies or bad companies. No, it's this deep conviction that the entire system is just a rigged game. So by investing, you're basically willingly playing by a set of rules that are designed from the ground up to benefit someone else, not you. So this philosophy basically tells us to avoid three huge pillars of conventional finance: stock market investing, working for money, the 9 to 5 grind, and paying taxes. In this worldview, every single one of those is seen as a trap, something designed to keep you stuck inside a system that isn't actually built for you to win. When you put all these different pieces together, you start to realize it's not just a collection of financial tips. It's a completely different mindset. It's really about shifting your whole perspective, from being a player down on the field to being an observer up in the skybox, watching how the game is really being played. This whole philosophy really boils down to where you focus your energy. Forget just earning and saving. Instead, it argues that you should become almost obsessed with understanding the manipulation going on behind the scenes. Honestly, it's less about traditional finance and more about, seeing the matrix. So, what are the big takeaways from deconstructing this whole perspective? Well, number one, money is an instrument of debt. Number 2, that debt can be used as a tool, not something to be afraid of. And 3, that conventional systems like stocks and taxes, they might just be parts of a manipulated game that you have to navigate, not blindly follow. It's a pretty radical idea that challenges almost everything we're taught. And all of this really leaves us with one final, big, provocative question to think about. We've just laid out a really contrarian perspective, and it kind of forces us to ask ourselves, is the financial system a set of rules you're supposed to follow, or is it a game to be won by understanding all its manipulation? How you answer that question for yourself could pretty much define your entire financial journey.